Okay, this music isn't suitable for either Ray Lucia or for John Bam Ransom. Sorry about that. Hey, welcome back to the Ray Lucia Show. I am John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. He is still here answering your questions. He'll be back in just a couple of minutes. If you have questions for him, go to raylucia.com. That's raylucia.com. Hit the Ask Ray link at the top of the page. Send in your questions. Of course, we'll get to them. It's kind of the best part of the show because, man, you line up the smartest listeners, radio watchers on TV, and Ray Lucia, magic happens. So stay tuned for that. Hey, now we have Joan Shifflett from Always Best Care. How are you doing today, Joan?
Absolutely fabulous.
Well, that's good. That's good. Let's talk a little bit about the process that you take people through. I mean, increasingly, this is becoming an important conversation for people to have, and they really need like a facilitator to have these kinds of conversations inside families, don't they?
Yes, they do. Some of the questions that I approach right off the bat is to find out not only what the client's goals are, but what the family, the support is. What are their goals for their loved one?
Sure. And
collectively, based on those goals, then how do we work out a short-term and maybe even a long-term solution for that?
Right, because there's certain constraints. I mean, we got to figure out what type of care they need. We also have to figure out a budget. So we have to we have to fit those two things into kind of what the resources that are available, right?
That's correct. And if for some reason we cannot help them, what we want to do is to be able to redirect them to whatever avenue accommodates their needs. Mm-hmm. We may not always be the best solution. We want to be.
Sure.
But that's what makes us unique, is because we will do whatever it takes to graciously help people that knock at our door.
Sure.
Find the best solutions to help them out.
Well, let's talk about kind of the evolving picture of long-term care here in the United States. You know, there are more and more options. It used to be, you know, you kind of had the generic nursing home, but now there are so many different options for people who maybe, you know, need a little bit of help.
Things have changed drastically, and we still do not have a general public's education up with that change, because there's a different element in today's world as far as looking at a solution for our loved one.
Right.
And we are so blessed to have assisted living or even independent living communities. So it's really trying to, a nursing home 99.9% of the time is not the answer.
Right.
Assisted living is a lot more economical, and I'm going to tell you, some of the locations that I know are like cruise ships on land.
So let me ask you this. I mean, this would seem to me to be kind of a tough conversation to have inside a family, because, you know, it's freighted with all sorts of kind of hidden emotional traps and things like that. How do you bring this up in a family? Because I'm sure there are people that people love. They're listening right now. They have people that they love that might be facing this kind of a situation. How do you bring this up inside a family?
Well, I tell you, how we bring it up is we have to focus on three things that are hugely important. So get your long pencil out.
Okay,
the long
great.
pencil is better than a short memory. Is to focus on the wants, the needs, and the financial situation. Sometimes that conversation really starts with the support before the client is even involved, because the client sometimes, you know, it depends on the era, they're very independent.
Sure.
They feel like they've been able to do everything their life all the way up to this year of 92. So why should it change? And they're graciously right. But they're not out there and know the changes. So that's why someone like Always Best Care can come in and freely give people the advice, help them work out short-term and long-term solutions. If a goal is to, the client says, I want to stay in my home as long as I can. Mm-hmm. Well, let's sit down and let's figure out how we can make that happen.
Sure.
And then what are some of the consequences if that happens? So let's see if we can find some solutions to resolve those consequences or show them another avenue. So what I'm a firm believer is this. If mom or dad wants to stay in their home, You have to respect that wish.
Yes.
It doesn't mean let them do it, but you've got to understand why they want to do that. If someone's been in their house 56 years, can you clearly not understand why they want to stay there?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. And what happens is most of those people of that era, they think the only solution is a nursing home, the very stark hospital environment.
Right.
And that's not the way that it is.
Hey,
there
I'm
are
on the
lots of lovely places out there.
I'm on the phone with Joan Shifflett, Always Best Care, Midlothian, Virginia, and there are like literally facilities that are pretty much like people's houses now. We're very low population, maybe four or five people, maybe even three people sharing a house together with one person looking after them, right?
Exactly right. There are all in different states, they've got different rules and regulations. Sure. And I've got a word for it in the state of Virginia. It's called residential homes.
Right.
Then there are group homes, but those are words that are spoken based on our laws. And there's all kinds of creative ways. You know, you could actually have a residential home where, I mean, you got to be so careful. We could spend our whole 9 minutes on this.
Right.
But in the state of Virginia, there are residential homes that are 3 residents or less that have a business license, but they are not have an Office of Licensure and Certification license to run that home. A lot of them do follow those guidelines. They are just not certified because they don't have to be certified because
Right.
they have 3 or less residents. So what they do is they do have 24/7 care in those homes. So I throw a word of caution out. Due to the fact that they are not governed by the OLC, you have to depend on someone like Always Best Care to know everything about them. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing that I want to tell the public is I have to commend every single Always Best Care owner out there, because what they do a phenomenal job of going into the residential homes or the group homes mm-hmm. or the assisted livings or the skilled nursings, and they know everything about these communities.
Right.
They know what they're good at, what they're bad at, what they need help with, and does it meet the wants and the needs and the financial situations of the person we just spoke about.
Hey, Joan, how can people get in touch with you directly?
Well, you can always call my office, which
mm-hmm.
is 804 912
mm-hmm.
5688. That's 804 912 5688, and we will gracious. It's a free service that we provide.
Absolutely, that's great. That's great. No, you know, I think that's part of the scary thing about what people think of the kind of the nursing home culture is the cookie cutter approach, that you're not treated as an individual, but you're describing a system where you have lots of different owners who have different styles of the way they do things, and your job really is to kind of bridge the gap between the clients and the places that they can be put into in order to make sure that their lifestyle and their desires are best maintained, right?
Yes, sir. And let me tell you, I have such a high level of respect within these communities because they know I've done my homework.
Right.
And they know that I'm not bringing someone to that door unless I feel like their community is one of the options. I don't take anybody to one option. I want them to look at different options. They are ultimately the decision maker, but I want to show them the most workable options based on our hours of dialogue. It's finding everything. Logistics, what's important to the family? Is it logistics? Is it finance? Is it the needs? You know, what does mom or dad like to do? Do they like to read books? Are they a veteran? Do they, there's different communities that have got different clubs for different people. What
Sure.
do they like to do?
Sure.
So,
when's a good time to start having this discussion? I mean, at what point do you start having this discussion with your loved ones?
When you notice either physical or mental deterioration is a good start, but I have to tell you what, it doesn't hurt to have that conversation anytime. Even myself, You know, I'm not close to that age, but
Sure.
I have to tell you what, my daughter and I have had that discussion. I have told her what my wishes are based on my knowledge. That's with anything that we do. I think we as family caregivers or upcoming family caregivers to our loved one is to have very open and honest dialogue of how we can fulfill their wishes.
Hey, Joan, I appreciate you coming by. That's Joan Shifflett with Always Best Care, Midlothian, Virginia. You can get them at alwaysbestcare.com. That's alwaysbestcare.com or 1-855-470-CARE. That's 1-855-470-CARE. Hey, this is the Ray Lucia Show. The great man himself is going to be with us in just a minute. If you have questions for Ray, go to raylucia.com. We'll be back right after this.